Hello everyone. We're going to use Pandas library in Python to make a data frame. Well, data frame is like a table. It has a set of rows and columns. It's a very important container you could use when working with data. So we're using, as I said, Pandas library in Python. Let's load the library first. You can load it as follows. Import pandas as PD. That's a convention. Okay, now your library is loaded and ready to be used. You can initialize an empty data frame. Let's call this data frame df. So df is equal to pd dot data frame. Now, if you run this cell, you already have an empty data frame. You can print it to see what you get. So you have an empty data frame, and both columns and rows are empty. So let's put some data in this data frame. We can add a column to this. So let's say we have some numbers in a list. So values is the name of our list. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in that. So we wanna add this column to our previous data frame. So df is pd dot data frame, and in its argument you can add your data is your list of numbers, which is the list values. So if you print this data frame, you get a df that is not empty anymore. So you can see that you have a column 1 to 5 as you defined here. You notice that the name of the column is by default set to 0. You could choose a name for that. You could go back and in the argument you define your column name as, let's say, values like that. And if you run it again, you can see that the name has changed to values. Now, if you wanted to have more than one column in your data frame, you could pass a list of lists so that you get a two-dimensional data frame. Let's do it here. So we can have a new list. Let's call it values again, and in there for the first element, you could have 1, 2, and for the second list, you could have like 5 and 6, let's say. Now, let's do the same thing. Let's create a data frame, pd dot data frame for your data. It would be values, and for the column names, so we have two, like a list of two elements. So we're gonna have two columns. Let's call them values 1 and values 2. So if you print your data frame now, you can see that you have two columns. And so 1 and 2 are gonna be your first row, and 5 and 6 are gonna be your second row, and your two columns are values 1 and values 2 as we defined here. Well, there is another way of making data frames using dictionaries. This is my preferred way to go. So in dictionaries, you have a set of keys and a number of values. The keys of your dictionary are going to be the column labels, and the values of your dictionary are going to be the column values. Let's see what I mean by this. So let's define a dictionary. Let's call it dict0, and the first key is going to be key 0, and your first label, like value, is gonna be 1, 2, 3, and 4. The second key is gonna be key of 1, and your second value is gonna be 5, 6, 7, and 8. So let's make a data frame from this one, pd dot data frame, and your data this time is going to be dict of 0. So you don't need to assign the column labels in this case. If you print your data frame, you will get them like this. So we had two key value pairs, and here we have two columns. Your first column label is key 0, your first key, and your second column label is key 1, which is going to be your second key in the dictionary. And the values are, like, for the first column 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and for the second column 5, 6, 7, 8. As you can see, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, so let's go up and quickly review what we learned so far. So we learned first that how we can make an empty data frame. Then we learned how to add values to that. In this case, we added a single column, and we learned how to label it properly. Next, we created a two-dimensional data frame by passing a list of lists to the data frame function. And eventually, we learned how to properly make a data frame using a Python dictionary. And that brings us to the end of this session. Thank you so much.